Friends, it has come to light that the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, who is also a principal participant in the negotiating group with the Russians, paid a visit to the National Anti-Corruption Bureau yesterday. He visited at the request of the anti-corruption bodies in connection with cases related to the Mindich tapes, but, and this is a very important clarification, he visited as a witness. And from the official information from the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, the questions NABU detectives reviewed in Umerov's presence, with whom he openly cooperated, this is also crucial. These specific questions, and this is a strange story, not in that Umerov visited NABU, but what they interrogated him about. These inquiries solely pertain to Energoatom. Energoatom, correct? Why Energoatom specifically? So when the court session for this investigation was underway, a court session took place regarding the corruption inquiry at Energoatom, and a particular individual named Ihor Marinyuk was present. He is someone who is indeed in custody, correct? So, during the review of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau detectives' request to detain Ihor Marinyuk, a person of interest in the corruption investigation, the prosecution alleged that Zelensky's close associate, Timur Mindich, had influenced ex-Minister of Energy Herman Halushchenko and ex-Minister of Defense Rustem Umerov. The testimony was given in the Energoatom case, but it implicated the former Minister of Defense Rustem Umerov. And so, NABU quite clearly states that they questioned him regarding Energoatom. However, what about the significant inquiries concerning the Ministry of Defense? Given that the information is now readily available in the public domain, isn't that so? For instance, the account shared by Krivonos specifically pertains to Umerov, focusing on the particular episode of his discussions with Timur Mindich. Here is a screenshot of the communication transcripts, thoroughly documented by the anti-corruption bodies, detailing exchanges that occurred on the specified date and so on and so forth. And it is being discussed that Timur Mindich is making a request to sign off on the acceptance. You see that, right? And this is a wake-up call for you. Just say, I don't want to hear from Timur about body armor anymore. I used to meet him twice weekly, you know, the usual and so forth and so on. So the case revolves around body armor, and Umerov responds there. I've heard you. I'll reach out to him again and tell him to consider what's needed from me to finalize this matter. The story with this body armor is indeed very confusing, but both the anti-corruption officials and Rustem Umerov himself have said that. It ultimately led to no tangible outcome. However, Rustem Umerov openly acknowledged his contact with Timur Mindich, and he provided commentary on this matter. He stated, and I quote Rustem Umerov directly, that all endeavors to associate my responsibilities within the Ministry of Defense with the supposed influence of any particular individuals are unfounded. In my capacity as minister, I regularly engaged with manufacturers and suppliers of equipment and weaponry and lobbyists, among others. Correct? And you can even read this, as you can see on Ukrainska Pravda, for example. And he continues saying specifically, a meeting occurred with Timur Mindich, where the issue of body armor under contract was discussed. Umerov further clarified at that specific time that this particular contract was ultimately not signed, given that the Ministry of Defense decided to reject it. What inquiries regarding Energoatom might be directed to Rustem Umerov? Are there perhaps other instances that have not yet been disclosed by the anti-corruption authorities? This is quite concerning and holds the potential to significantly turn this situation in an entirely unforeseen direction, which is very worrying. Regarding the allegations that could be brought against Rustem Umerov, since he appears on the Mindich tapes, not yet formally a person of interest in the case, People's Deputy Honcharenko reports that the National Anti-Corruption Bureau has already drafted these allegations against Rustem Umerov. He's accused of embezzling state funds, I quote Honcharenko. In addition, part of the slush fund that was moved to the Persian Gulf countries is registered under Rustem Umerov's name. Right? There's another fascinating narrative currently gaining traction, though it's still quite sparsely substantiated. This story suggests that the peace proposals contained, or rather initially contained before any revisions, specific provisions regarding a general military amnesty to be granted following the war's conclusion, and this has been widely discussed. They were also introduced and Rustem Umerov knew about it. And moreover, Rustem Umerov, serving as Ukraine's representative, was fully aware of Dmitriev and Vitkov's negotiations taking place in Miami. That's a very captivating, distinct story, but I'm circling back to this particular incident. NABU prepared allegations against Rustem Umerov, yet called him in for an interrogation as a witness. But the allegations are just sitting there somewhere. They just haven't been activated yet. If there are indeed unactivated allegations, and if that proves true, then we must seek confirmation from another reliable source that corroborates Honcharenko's claims. So, how much of a reliable source do you consider Honcharenko to be? There is also yet another quite captivating publication which pertains to "My power went out, but that's okay, we'll continue. We live in a country where the power sometimes goes out." Well then, there is yet another intriguing publication that originates from Zerkalo Tizhnya. I'll just read. I'll quote it. In the President's office, sources from Zerkalo Tizhnya claim, and law enforcement agencies also confirm this. After the July crisis meeting in the President's office, President Volodymyr Zelensky had multiple unpublicized meetings with anti-corruption leaders, namely NABU Director Semen Krivonos and SAP head Alexander Klimenko. According to sources, during the most recent meeting, the president received information that materials were ready for delivering allegations to Andriy Yermak, the head of the presidential office, and Rustem Umerov, the secretary of the National Security and Defense Council. The real question, though, isn't that the leaders of the anti-corruption bodies conveyed this intelligence to the head of state, but rather what his subsequent reaction actually was. Following this discussion, the president made the decision to appoint Yermak and Umerov as the leaders of the Ukrainian negotiating group. On the other hand, yes. Conversely, after 6 years of policies that, as the article puts it, burned out all professional and intellectual talent, who else could lead the Ukrainian negotiating group except those with the highest level of presidential trust? Indirect confirmation of the seriousness of NABU's intentions regarding these officials is that on November 25th, Umerov was invited to the National Anti-Corruption Bureau for an interrogation. Isn't that intriguing? We now have multiple sources, and even reputable publications are confirming that these allegations are indeed present. And if we are to believe the sources of Zerkalo Tizhnya, it is now clear why this suspicion has not been activated. And Umerov's presence in the negotiating group, it turns out, is not for the benefit of this negotiating group, but rather to stop this process involving the suspicion, if we are to refer to these sources. Zheleznyak's reaction to this entire text from Zerkalo Tizhnya was to say, "No way, that's impossible. I heard the president's speech that we need to unite and stop the infighting." And then a postscript, "Or could it actually be true?" followed by a lot of emojis. Well, if I had proper lighting in this room where I'm currently recording, you would undoubtedly witness the hair on my head literally standing on end. It's that shocking, believe me. This isn't merely a leak from Honcharenko anymore. It's a comprehensive disclosure by Zerkalo Tizhnya, which operates using substantiated facts, you understand, and a thought came to my mind. So, if a member of the negotiating group faces a threat, then a plan B likely needs to be put in place. This is crucial so that such an event does not adversely impact what is currently the foremost priority for Ukraine: achieving a complete and decisive end to the conflict, ideally by steadfastly advancing the Ukrainian stance. And I'm not sure if it's accidental or by design, but Kirilo Budanov, who is the head of Main Intelligence Directorate, has now joined our negotiating group. A person who is currently at odds with Andriy Yermak with the office, and there were even rumors that Volodymyr Zelensky wanted to get rid of Kirilo Budanov from the political arena, so to speak, so that Budanov wouldn't create competition for him as a potential challenger who could pose that competition in the next presidential election. And rest assured, those elections will occur. We'll see them through. I'm stating this optimistically indeed, so there it is. But It really seems to me that Budanov's involvement in this entire situation is more than just some mere attempt to bring him into the negotiating group. This is an effort to prevent a downfall should a significant figure such as Umerov indeed face such allegations, ensuring they do not completely collapse. Mariana Bezula thinks differently. Look, she writes, in the difficult situation of an internal political crisis, I agree with that part, it's what I said, and the absence of long-standing decisions, the president is testing a new format for negotiations, interaction, and responsibility by actively involving Kirilo Budanov, whom he was recently ready to dismiss him from his position because of Yermak's strong disapproval, essentially siding with Yermak in their recent dispute. This is a good sign that Zelensky is already seeking alternatives, someone who could take on the heavy lifting from Andriy Borisovich. And well, Bezula's dislike for Yermak is obvious. That's all understandable. I previously did a separate review, which you're welcome to watch, so I won't dwell on it here. However, the crucial point I wish to convey is this. If you somehow believe that Volodymyr Zelensky had, out of the blue, become close friends with Kirilo Budanov, that is unequivocally far from the actual truth. This situation is a forced one stemming from Ukraine's internal political crisis. And the second reason that to me seems to be truly crystallizing right now is the significant question regarding Rustem Umerov's continued involvement within this negotiating group. So these are my initial thoughts. Please share your opinions in the comment section below.